trying to keep my mental from slipping. Comes down to life versus living. Unsure which side should be winning.
Hey, what is up guys, my name is Amalox and welcome to Rocket League Cheat Codes, the show where I show you underutilized, overpowered mechanics that you should be using in your game. Today I want to talk about a fake Moxy flick into a Musty flick. This is a mechanic that I've personally been using a lot in my ranked games, and aside from looking very cool, it's also very effective. Now, upon first glance, a lot of you might think that this is a Breezy flick, and I want to use this video to show why it's not a Breezy flick and also what makes it better than a Breezy flick. This mechanic has a lot of variations, which makes it very versatile, even at the highest level. And personally, I've been scoring a lot of goals against even 2.1k, 2.2k players over these past few months. Both in 1s and 2s, so I think it's very useful, and I hope by the end of this video I've convinced you guys to also try it out in your game. Before you can understand the point of this mechanic, it's good to first highlight the strengths and weaknesses of a normal Moxy flick. You see, the Moxy flick is probably one of the strongest mechanics in the game, as it allows you to fling a ball to the top corner with over 110 km per hour. However, because it is so strong, people have gotten a lot better at defending it over the years. At the highest level, defenders will often hide behind the ball to keep the attacker guessing on when they'll challenge, and to make saving it a lot easier. Or they'll just start early challenging to cut off the option entirely. This means that the Moxy flick is mostly only effective if the defending player can't get into a good shadowing position and if the attacker is already relatively close to the goal, as this limits the amount of things that the defender can do. If the attacker is too far away, the flick will likely overshoot the goal, or the attacker will have enough time to read the path of the ball and save it easily. In practice, this means that the closer an attacker can get to the goal before flicking, the harder it becomes for the defender to save. But the attacker cannot just dribble the ball to the net until they're close enough, as this gives the defender a lot of opportunities to challenge, fake challenge, or hide behind the ball. So, ideally, we need a way to get closer to the goal without giving the defender any opportunities to challenge or fake us out. Now, a good way to achieve just this is by delaying a flick. If we start doing a Moxy flick, the defender has to respect the fact that we can flip at any moment, and thus, they cannot challenge us, or the ball will just be flicked over them. In the time we are airborne, we can make up some of the distance and get closer to the goal. Unfortunately, because our flip timer is limited to a maximum of 1.45 seconds if the first jump is held down, the distance we can cover before we need to flip is limited. But, what if, instead of flicking the ball at the start of our flip, we can flick it at the end of our flip? This will give us around 1.45 seconds plus whatever time it takes to do a full flip. Now, this amount of time is difficult to measure. The game adds a rotational torque to your car for around 0.65 seconds upon a flip, but if you cancel your flip and uncancel it later, you are able to delay the time it takes for your car to reach the max rotational speed. This means that in practice the flip can take longer than 0.65 seconds. However, a small amount of time is also needed to actually flick the ball by hitting it multiple times. Because of all of these factors, I'll assume a time of around 0.75 seconds for a full flip to flick the ball, which also includes cancelling and uncancelling your flip. In theory, this would give us around 2.2 seconds of time to make up the distance before the ball is flicked. The main problem is that we need to find a way to flick the ball at the end of our flip. Fortunately, this is exactly what a Musty flick is useful for. It allows us to flick the ball at high speeds right at the end of our flip. If we combine the start of the Moxy flick with a Musty flick at the end, we force the defender to back off. Then we can delay the flick by the 2.2 seconds mentioned before to get much closer to the goal, and then get a powerful flick to the top corner to score. There's only a small window where the defender can challenge, which is the time we spend turning from a Moxy flick position to a Musty flick position. However, because the defender likely already backed off once they saw the Moxy flick position, they aren't able to turn and challenge in time. By the time they challenge, we are already in a position to perform the Musty flick, so the ball will just go over them. The main weakness is the fact that the defender can just decide to challenge us in the Moxy flick position anyway. For this reason, you should switch up doing this move with actual Moxy flicks to make sure that the defender respects the fact that you can just flick it over them. Now, I hope that you now understand why this move is so powerful, even at the highest level. So next, I want to show you some variants of this mechanic. I'll start by looking at the most commonly known variant of this mechanic, which most people know as a Breezy flick. It starts with the fake Moxy flick motion I just showed, and then the car is rotated on its yaw axis to end up in a good position to perform the Musty flick. While this mechanic is useful and essentially fulfills what I just talked about, it has a disadvantage that makes it harder to do well consistently. When doing a Breezy flick, the car is continually pointing forward in some sort of way. This means that if your car goes ahead of the ball, you cannot fix your position relative to the ball by boosting backwards. This means that you can only do a Breezy if the ball is going as fast or faster than your car. This is fine for a lot of situations, but if you want this mechanic to be a versatile, consistent mechanic at the highest level, we need to be able to hit it every time no matter what position we are in, without needing to spend much time making sure the velocities of the ball and car match up correctly. That's where this next variant comes in. This is in my opinion the most useful variant and the one I would recommend you learn. It uses the opposite air roll, in my case air roll left, to adjust the car back into a straight position. During this, the car is rolled backwards by pushing your stick down to end up in the Musty flick position. Because your car faces both forward and backward during the motion, you have more freedom to adjust your car in the correct position to perform the Musty flick. In fact, if you look closely at this clip, you'll see that I boost backwards a bit to get into a better position. Also notice how I'm cancelling the Musty flick to delay the flick further. You can also do this variant without cancelling the flip like so, if you want to flick earlier. Next, I have a variation that uses square dead zone to keep the car turning on its yaw axis during the Musty flick. This allows you to flick more to the side and make it more difficult for the defender to guess in which direction the ball will go. Because a Musty flick is a straight backflip, you can actually steer both left and right during this flick using this method, as you'll see me do in these clips. It is harder than the previous version, but arguably more effective, and it also looks a bit cooler. If you don't have square dead zone, you can also try using a bit of air roll during the Musty flick to achieve a similar effect. Next up is my favorite variant, which I call the beautiful Musty variant. For this one, instead of turning my car all the way over and straightening it using opposite air roll, I put it into the sideways position and perform what's called a beautiful Musty to flick the ball. It is very confusing from a defender perspective and it looks very cool. Unfortunately, it is harder than the normal variant and the direction the ball is flicked is also difficult to predict sometimes. But if you do get it, you can definitely get some insane looking shots. Finally, there's this variant where you don't do any readjustment using the opposite air roll and instead you just keep turning backwards to end up on the other side of the ball. This basically acts as a way to fake the defender out and change the direction you are flicking in. For example, in this clip here, it looks like I'm about to Moxy flick to the top right, but the flick ends up going top left. Alright, that's pretty much everything I have for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and hopefully you will find it useful for your own games. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And also let me know in the comments what you guys think this mechanic should be named. Or whether you think it should all just still be called a Musty or Breezy flick. I've been Amalox and I will see you guys later. Bye!